Welcome back. The premise for this video is making the case for Palantir's next 3 years to look like NVIDIA's last 3 years. Now, of course, there's a lot of nuance in this analysis, and I'll be showing you a lot of charts and diving into the details like this one. But first, I want to talk about previous video just very briefly, get the background out of the way about a comparison between Palantir and NVIDIA, how I see the two. NVIDIA growing a lot faster than Palantir, Palantir all around having a bit of a stronger mission with respect to retaining and attracting talent, and market dominance, NVIDIA having more dominance at this point. Growth potential, Palantir having the edge there, being a much smaller market cap. Management for the two being pretty much equally strong. Margins, the edge going to NVIDIA here as well. Pricing power, NVIDIA with its really incredible economics breaking, market shocking demand. But Palantir is in a much better place with competition. NVIDIA has some fierce competition, and Palantir really has no competition to be found. Market risk, I would say that's certainly what NVIDIA is going to be dealing with. Of course, very much more exposed to geopolitical risk with respect to their manufacturing, where Palantir really benefits from any geopolitical uncertainties. As for talent, I give the edge to Palantir here, and that brings us to this analysis. So I want to dive in. What will Palantir's next 3 years look like, and will they be similar to NVIDIA's last 3 years? But before I get to that, I want to talk about a video on NVIDIA's future that was the inspiration for my upload today. This video by Visual Sectors does a great job outlining the past, and I learned a lot about the early days that have laid the groundwork for NVIDIA to become one of the largest companies on the planet, worth trillions of dollars. It compares NVIDIA to where Microsoft was in the past, and how both have had a similar trajectory, each in different times. So if you're interested in where NVIDIA stock might be going, I encourage you to give the video a watch. Visual Sectors is not a YouTube channel like the others. They are experts focused on building tools with data and Wall Street veterans from BlackRock, BNP, and Commerce Bank. Subscribe to the Visual Sectors YouTube channel. Next video they told me they are posting is titled How to Pick Winning Stocks, with a downloadable step-by-step guide that I'm sure you will find valuable. And now let's get back to it. So let's have a closer look at this. Over the last 3 years, NVIDIA has posted a 462% increase in its stock valuation. So I've chosen about the 2021 range. Let's just say in this valuation analysis, we'll just use the peak here, end of 2021, beginning of 2022, and extend that forwards to where we are today. Say it's been about a 4x or so increase in that vicinity. The market cap for NVIDIA is now well over 2 trillion, which boggles my mind. EV to EBITDA at 64. So definitely some elevated valuations, and I'll be taking these and extrapolating them towards Palantir. So let's just have a closer look at comparing the two. Obviously, Palantir is just recently profitable. I would expect Palantir's price to earnings to compress over time as they grow into their multiple, and I think that as they post larger and larger quarters with more and more earnings that are driven by the operating power of the business, we're not going to see, skipped ahead there, we're not going to see a over 100 price to earnings. It's probably going to compress over the next few years down to around where NVIDIA is. As for the price to sales, we actually see Palantir's price to sales ratio is actually under NVIDIA's, which I find a little confusing actually why NVIDIA is trading at 25 times sales, and I think that's not going to last, but I understand that's due to their growth, and I think Palantir's price to sales could accelerate above NVIDIA's if and when they do see their significant growth curve from AIP. As for price to free cash flow, this is pretty similar to price to earnings. They're both pretty close together, and I think that makes sense for where both the businesses are. So let's take this step by step here. Valuation for NVIDIA in 2024 based on their latest earnings. We have 52 times earnings, 25 times sales, and 57 times free cash flow. It's worth noting this is in a bull market. NVIDIA is the leader when it comes to AI, and everyone wants to be behind the stock because the growth is crazy, the economics are off the charts and everything like that. So it's worth noting that when we value Palantir, I don't think it's fair to put Palantir's valuation metrics higher than NVIDIA's, because there's no saying where Palantir is going to be in the future with respect to the macroeconomic environment. Palantir 2028, we'll say, 3 or 4 years from now, however you want to slice it. Let's say they just hold on to these metrics, being generous here, and I'm not saying that they're going to exceed these metrics because I don't know if we're going to be in a bull market in 2028 or whatever, but we know Palantir is going to be growing pretty much a lot faster than it is now and much closer to the speed of NVIDIA based on their AIP product and all of the indications of that with customer count and really what we're seeing on all of their quarterly numbers and the confidence from the employees and the management team and everything like that. So I feel confident in continuing and carrying forward these numbers. So let's see what that actually turns into. So what are the requirements to see a 4x like NVIDIA did over the last 3 years for Palantir over the next 3 to 4 years? And that equates to a $200 billion market cap, which I think is within the realm of possibility. I'm definitely against the presuppositions that Palantir becomes a $1 trillion company by 2030, because in this case we're looking at 2028 at $200 billion. That seems much more manageable to me. That's an $80 share price, which I think it really is incredible from $20. I mean, who wouldn't be happy with that? So what are the requirements here from an earnings basis? 52 times earnings multiple divided by that $200 billion, 4x from where Palantir currently is at a $50 billion market cap. We need $3.8 billion in yearly earnings. And for 25 times sales multiple, we need $8 billion in revenue. And for 57 times free cash flow multiple, we need $3.5 billion in free cash flow. So a good question is, how realistic are these numbers? Are they going to happen? Here are my thoughts. Let's just take revenue and focus in on that because it's the easiest, because it's top line. Palantir's margins are subject to change over time, but we have a good sense of revenue. So as you can see down here, this is the 2028 projection from analysts, and this is averaging all of the analyst consensus together. What are they expecting? About $4.6 billion in revenue in the year 2028. So that compares to $8 billion as needed for Palantir's $80 a share in the year 2028. Over the next 3, 4, 5 years, however you count your years, the analysts are expecting a pretty linear growth rate. And so that's what I take issue with. Do I think Palantir is going to do more than $4 billion in revenue by 2028? I certainly do. I think it's going to be much more of a, I wouldn't really say exponential because, things get difficult. We already are at such a large number. I mean, everyone wants revenue to explode, but you have to give Palantir credit for where it currently is. $2 billion in revenue is nothing to sneeze at. It is very substantial. And so I don't think we're going to see Palantir's revenue go exponential in the next 4 years, but I don't think it's going to be linear either. I think there is going to be certainly some growth over the next 4 years that looks a lot less than what actually more in this case, looks a lot more than what the analysts are saying here. So all of that to say, it looks like the analysts are a little around half of what will be necessary to see a 4x in the next 4 years. But I think that it's actually going to be much more realistic for Palantir to post potentially $5 to $6 billion in sales, or maybe even $7 billion. I don't think they're quite going to get to the $8 billion, but I think they could get to 6 to 7 or much closer to that. So you could say that maybe Palantir has a higher sales multiple, in which case that would help them at a $7 billion revenue actually get to this $200 billion target. But I would say Palantir is actually going to be pretty close to this from a revenue basis, in my opinion. So I'd love to know what you think in the comments. What do you think about your revenue? Where is Palantir going to end up in the next 4 years? And what's your price target? And what do you think about this analysis comparing Palantir to NVIDIA using Palantir's, or rather NVIDIA's, earnings multiples, sales multiples, free cash flow multiples, as well as projecting that forwards to Palantir and looking at Palantir's fundamentals from a fundamental basis of what that would turn into for a share price. So I'd love to know what you think in the comments, and until next time.